Hi, and welcome to Safe Space Live with Lisa Paskel and yours truly, Randy Thomas. Hey, coming to you live from the Pacific coast of California, all the way across the country to New York. I'm sure Helen will be jumping on soon. We have got folks who have really touched us that have been a part of this platform for the last couple of weeks. For those of you, and I'm going to talk to Lisa in a moment, but for those of you who are new, in the last week when folks came on, Lisa had some wonderful sharing and interaction with people, and we talked about it and how we were going to make this space super special, and that's why I'm so grateful you're here. Kind of a brief introduction of what we're going to be doing tonight is that Lisa has been channeling the greater consciousness since she's been a child, and only last week did she really reveal that to me, that she wanted to sort of come out with this. So over the years, she has articulated and facilitated awareness, prayer, connection, messages of truth. And this comes from the embodiment through Lisa, but it is Mama is the term for the collective consciousness she channels. And to bring forth some clarity and understanding for all of us, let's talk about this, Lisa.
Me, Lisa, I'm feeling a little nervous right now, of course, because in my life, when I was a little girl, spirit energy would come to me, and I remember saying to my mom and dad all the time, especially at nighttime, that I was terrified to go to bed. I thought there were ghosts in my room, and probably there were ghosts in my room. As I got older, there was a duality between feeling comfortable with that energy around me. No one was able to explain it to me. There weren't people who could help me understand what that was. So there were times in my life when I wanted to numb out and move away from it. And it felt like it was always there. I felt like it was always there with me. And then at 23 years old, I had a out-of-body experience. I left my body. I was in an ICU, and very long story for another session. And a spirit energy came to me for whom I received the name Nathaniel. And it was a spirit guide, and it started to help me find clarity. And right after that experience, and being pulled into that energy space, what happened was people started calling me Mama. Well, it started off as Big Mama. And then I still didn't fully understand what that was for me or how to articulate, but I was doing a lot of healing work with people. I was a body worker, postural integrator. I was teaching yoga. I was leading community in a lot of different platforms in nature and yoga studios, in my home, and healing and recovery programs. And then slowly Big Mama became Mama. And then it became, I had at one time with partnerships and a past relationship, several yoga studios, and I was known as Mama P. So I never had to really explain to people, I'm channeling, here's Lisa over here. Lisa leaves the building and then channels to this higher power called Mama. And so I didn't have to explain that to people, because people signed on for life trainings, retreats, experiences with me, and I just got to be this fierce person that got right into your truth and never really had to explain it. And when I dove off the podium of my life about almost 9 years ago now, 2011, I didn't realize that I took that buffer away from myself. And I've been channeling, there's many people on this platform, on the Zoom session today, that I know have been with me in many experiences where I've channeled on their behalf. And they understand what that is. But now we're reaching out to a broader audience. For me, as Lisa, is just a human being who's also a work in progress. And when I'm channeling Mama, I learned so much myself. And I'm dedicated to my spiritual growth. I'm dedicated to helping other people connect spiritually to this greater consciousness. I felt like if we were moving into this platform, I had to allow people to understand what's happening, because when I'm giving feedback, it's not Lisa giving the feedback, it's this energy that I'm channeling, or that's channeling through me, I should say, that's been coming to me my whole life. And it comes in two ways. It comes in a collective conscious teaching of information and a wealth of knowledge about the laws of the universe that Lisa has to practically try to understand as well. And it also sometimes comes in a psychic energy form. I don't necessarily prefer that word, but sometimes when I'm working with people, I pick up on their health issues, like names, numbers. I can see spirit and feel spirit that has moved on out of physical form. So, but the most practical way to share this beautiful mama energy that I've been tapped into for my whole life is to help you, to help other people find their truth and their sacred spiritual connection and fill the gap of deprivation with love. And I think mama has always been the quality that encompasses that energy for myself and others.
We're excited to welcome Mama into the space today. And I want to say, you know, I've turned to Lisa. We're both from Michigan. I'm from Oak Park, Michigan. And where were you from? West Bloomfield? Or
Southfield, and then
from Southfield.
eventually Bloomfield Hills.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so I've known Lisa. She's a lot younger than me, but yet wisdom knows no age. And over the years, I have turned to Lisa when I have needed clarity on really serious issues that I felt were really just taking me off my path. And I was really having some struggles in the last several years. And so when I would chat with her, she would say, I'm channeling. And I'm like, well, I know when I do a big show, like I tell the universe, please God, come through me, let the words flow. And so I thought, oh, that's it. But then after last Monday, when so many people connected in the Zoom with Lisa, she said, you know, I really want to kind of come clean with what happens with me so that people are able to see Lisa, but also Mama will be happy to channel for them. And it really is two different sources, right? Well, you're the source, but the information that will come through you will be Mama, correct?
That seems to be what's happened for most of my life, yes.
All right, so tonight we're gonna, or this afternoon, or this evening if you're back east, we are going to step into that energy. But before we do, I had an indication, we had a couple of friends that wanted to say something. Dennis Kleinman, you are the person that's been with us for a few weeks now, getting to know Lisa virtually, and you indicated something to me about feeling that what she was doing was kind of profound and you weren't. Yeah, so go ahead. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, you know, it's interesting now that you've said this, so much of what you've said previously now makes so much more sense, in a sense, for me. There's such a genuine support that I feel coming from you and everything that you say. So that's what has drawn me to this forum is for people, like-minded people, I guess, in a sense, to be able to have somewhere that they can connect. Obviously, we can't do it, you know, physically, but we're doing it virtually. And it's been very helpful to me. It really has. Just having an opportunity to speak and knowing that you're getting something back that is so meaningful. I think we're all going, you know, I mean, I've gone through my ups and downs. For the first part of this, I was very relaxed. I'm getting a little bit, I can feel myself changing sometimes, going up and down a little bit, but just knowing that we've got this forum in this space, I think has just been amazing. So thank you for really sharing that. I think it has that much more value for me. I hope for everybody else as well.
Mm.
Thank you, Dennis. I want to say that I get so much out of when I'm channeling Mama, when that energy is moving through me, it's so validating for me as well, because like you in this experience, I mean, there's been moments where I have been terrified and in grief and fear. I think a lot of spiritual teachers are afraid to talk about their grief, their fear, their humanness, because they get seen as this image of this great spiritual energy, and then no one wants to see that person when I'm not channeling, I'm scared shitless sometimes, you know, I'm working on myself too. And so to be able to connect in a platform as Lisa, but then also be a vessel for myself and all of you to offer that up, it feels very affirming, and it does help me as well.
Oh, good, 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 good. Well, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. I mean, I think it's so incredibly helpful. It really is. And it's nice to be able to voice one's feelings and thoughts and ideas and add that to the collective all of everything, you know?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Dennis. Dennis is a phenomenal voiceover guy who recently did an audiobook of Siddhartha. So you can imagine hearing Siddhartha speak through that voice. It's so wonderful. I know, where's Avery? Where's Avery? Oh, Avery, I see you there. Would you like to share with us?
Can you all hear me?
Yes. Hi, beautiful.
I'm a little nervous, but I just wanted to say hi, and my name's Avery. That is my Aunt Lisa, so I'm her niece. And I want to say hi because I was born with cystic fibrosis, and I got a double lung transplant over 4 years ago. And one, I just want to say how proud I am of my Aunt Lisa for like doing all this and sharing her work with the world, because I'm lucky. I feel like I have my own personal life coach because she's helped me when I was really, really sick, and like when I was ultimately dying, like get through a lot of stuff. And she's helped channel me so many times in my life and helped me get through a lot of like mental and physical disabilities, just spending like multiple hours on the phone with me, like when I was sick, talking about my life's purpose and other things. And so I know she can help a lot of you, and like it's really nice to see her doing all this. So yeah, I just wanted to share that and say hi.
I love you.
Love you.
That's beautiful, Avery. Is she in Michigan? Are you in Michigan?
I'm not in Michigan. I moved to Florida, but I'm also originally from Michigan.
Yeah, okay, a lot of us were. A lot of ex-Michiganders, but the love is the same. Thank you for sharing, Avery. Someone that I met just the other day who is a really dear friend, one of her besties, Jacqueline Cravette is that how you say your last name, Cravette?
Yeah. Hi.
Beautiful woman, beautiful heart, who has, you've had really deep experiences with Lisa channeling Mama.
I have, and I have had experiences from her from the channeling perspective and the psychic perspective. But what I will say as a pre-warning to everyone is when Lisa is channeling the collective consciousness called Mama, the name, she's not going to meet anybody's story in deprivation, meaning people generally are committed to their story of what happened, and what the situation is. Because she's channeling collective consciousness, that does not accommodate for any sort of deprivation, and it will be channeled to have you reach your greatest vibration and highest vibration. So if there's a cutoff or something like that, it's only because there's a direct focus of not the deprivation, the story, but going to more of a collective consciousness and greater vibration. That's all. I kind of just wanted to preempt that.
Yeah. Beautiful. And it's true, because Lisa has been working with me lately, and I'm all in my story explaining why something happened, and it's only because this happened and then that and she's like, just cut that. And she just jumps right through and takes me where I need to go. So so I'm very clear on separating from my story if I truly want to grow. And I think that is the key to this time. Here we are all at home trying to connect with each other and preparing for the world to reemerge back into the world, but we don't want to do it the same way. I think that's why you found your way here today. We're all looking to come out of this healthier, stronger, better, all of those things. So because you're here and Lisa is going to sort of step aside and let Mama come through, I think this might be a good time, Lisa, to put everyone in the same space, and we can do a little meditation so Lisa can step aside. And if you have questions for Mama, that's what this hour is going to be for, and we would love to hear from you.
Well, Yes, thank you. And we will do that. So what I'd like to do is put us through a short exercise, and then I'm going to talk for a few minutes from a channeled connection from the space of Mama. And then I'm just going to open up, whether we sit here together quietly or you would like to have some coaching or some insight. Jacqueline, I really want to thank you for putting that disclaimer out for me. I think that's one of the things, without the yoga platform and people signing up for life trainings and retreats and all these things, I don't have that disclaimer. So I'm a pretty feisty chick, and I speak my mind, but when Mama's in the house, she does not deviate, period. And it can sometimes come off as harsh. It's not. And it's just, it is what it is. So if everybody's interested, I'd like to invite you to close your eyes and place a hand on your heart, a hand on your belly. And just take a moment, it does take a moment to find the rhythm of your breath, your natural breath. We tend to breathe when we're in protective mode higher up in the chest. So if you, in your mind's voice, can invite your chest to relax. Just invite your chest to relax. By placing your hand there, there's a feeling of safety. There's a feeling of ease, knowing that you can put some comfort into your body with your own hand. And then you'll notice as you do this that your breath starts to drop down into your belly a little bit more. And see if you can just feel the rise. And then there's a pause and the exhale. And there's a tiny pause there. And again, the rise, the pause, and the exhale. So what we're going to do today, we are going to make a little shift from the experience of perhaps grief, worry, fear, doubt. And we're going to bring in some words and we're going to feel them together. And we're going to shift the energy in our physiological body to a higher level of vibration. So we're going to bring our emotional level up a bit so that we are operating from a more connected space. So just keep breathing. And I'm going to invite in the word to start, the word of ease. And in your mind, gently as you're breathing, see if you can feel what ease feels like. And I'm going to be talking as I start to connect to this channel of Mama. I'm going to start talking on your behalf and see if you can allow for what comes through me to penetrate and allow yourself to feel and experience ease. Ease feels like relief. Relief feels like breaking free. Stop. Ease feels like a dog. Ease feels like, well, ease feels like a surrender. Surrender feels easier. Easier, starting to feel more relaxed. I feel relaxed. I feel that letting go feels softer, easier. Breathe into it. Softer, easier. Release feels like energy. Energy feels big and full and awake. I feel awake in this moment. I feel clear. That clarity, the feeling of knowing, the trust, the ease, the well-being, the ease of my being. Breathing into that. It feels good. Oh, good feels freeing. Whoa, free. Free feels possible, possible. Feels like so much goodness, 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 free, capable, power, energy. I can be in this trust. I feel trust. What does trust feel like? It feels okay. It feels good. And breathe into that ease, that trust, that knowing, the surrender. Now from here in your mind, ask yourself if you are safe. And if your needs are met in this moment and there's nowhere you need to be in the next 5 moments, and you can breathe into the surrender for just this moment, just nod your head. Notice what it feels like to have a perfect moment with your needs met, feeling safe in your own ease, in your own relief. Wow. Such a deep sense of appreciation. See if you can feel that connection, knowing that you're safe in it. There's nothing you need to do. And just breathe. Let go of any resistance, of any despair right now, any fear or doubt, and give way to this ease, to this peaceful energy that's starting to percolate in your experience. And see if you can bring a gentle smile to your face. I am not suggesting that you need to be happy, but see how that changes your energy and softens your experience. And see if you can whisper gently in that sacred space that you're feeling in yourself, these simple words. I love you. And see if you can hear that within yourself. I love you. And notice who's hearing it. It is not your attachment to a name, a role, a person. Just notice who hears I love you and where it echoes from. And see if you can enjoy the experience of what love feels like. Love feels delicious, warm. It feels true, pure. And take a couple more breaths. And then go ahead, when you're ready, open your eyes. It's funny how we as human beings work so diligently to save face all the time. And when we find ourselves in a space like this, and we put the walls down, and we allow for ourselves to emerge from this authentic space, there's so little words that need to be said. Because the energy is true, it's real, it's experienced from consciousness, from inner being, from the collectiveness that is all pervasive. That is what we are a part of. And human suffering is the cornerstone of all suffering. And that suffering occurs because we do not connect to that space. We do not live our lives from that connection. And that creates a gap of deprivation. And we fill that deprivation up with many things, with what I call in my book, our story, we fill it up with food, relationships, drugs, alcohol, work. We have so many disclaimers. We fill it up with politics. We fill it up with so many things that we want to buy, things we want to have. Why do you think we would want to buy or have anything? Because we do think that if we have those things, we're going to feel better. And isn't it interesting that we can feel so good without having to purchase something or change something or fix somebody or blame somebody, just by placing our hands here and experiencing the power of who we are? So if we can learn, and Mama energy is to help us learn to master loving ourselves and to close that gap of deprivation with real love, with real empathy. And if we want to heal grief, shame, anxiety, see, these feelings of fear, grief, shame, anxiety, worry, mistrust, they all come from that deprivation space. The pandemic that we're experiencing, this virus, as I've said before, is just another example of our disconnection manifested into physical form. And if we want to create something higher, we have to connect to what's higher. And we can't do that when we're asking from fear and deprivation. And we don't even know that we are. We start to recognize that we do that when we start to feel that energy. So if you felt yourself shift into something that felt like ease, that felt like pure joy, that felt like trust, then that was you tapping into Mama, into collective consciousness, into your inner being space, that sacred soul space. And what happens is when we separate from that, and it generally happens very young when we're children, there's an incident and experience that happens where we pull back and we start living in our personalities and we start building these lives from outside of ourselves, survival mode, essentially. And what this pandemic is doing is it's really putting that survival mode in our face. And so those feelings that we probably, most people experience, I know Lisa does, daily, those, that vacillation between elation all the way down to complete fear, worry, anxiety. It's like emotional mind roller coaster, is because we really don't deal with the deprivation. Well, we do. Lisa works very hard. And I know some of you do. I know some of you do. I know some of you are, as a lovely woman said last week, light healers. Many of us are. And all of us are capable of connecting to Mama. Everybody is wired energetically to be connected to energy. That's what we're made of. So it's where we put our perspective and what tools are we going to use to connect to that inner being Mama space. And everybody is a channel. Everybody is a channel. So Mama will help you find your channel, will help you find that inner being space and give you direct feedback on how to get there, and will not hold any space for you in deprivation, that I can tell you.
Let me see if we have anyone that would like to talk to Mama at this time. Can I see a show of hands if you have a question, if there's something you'd like to? Yes? Lisa Machenberg? Hi, let me introduce Lisa Machenberg. She is a world-renowned hypnotherapist. She works with people, helping them regress into past lives. She has been doing the work for quite some time, and we happen to be neighbors. And, I'm a big believer that there are no accidents, that, what seems to be a coincidence is just perfect. It's, it's all meant to be. And Lisa and I connected recently. She lives in my neighborhood and we distance walk. And it was only after we've walked that I'm like, wait, you do this work? That's incredible. So welcome, Lisa. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much, Randy. And Lisa and, oh my goodness, 38 of us. And Lisa, I love what you say, that we have our own personal struggles, and then we have our professional connection to the divine energy. And it's a duality. And the way you articulated it was so amazing and beautiful and profound. So I have a question, not from my healing energy, but for myself. I have an autoimmune disease called Crohn's. Affects my immune system, attacks healthy tissue. I struggle with it.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter inherited it from me.
Mm.
She struggles with it too. And I wanted to speak not from, again, my healing professional side, but my vulnerable, very humane, very flawed side. And I would like to ask Mama for some insight for me, with her permission and your permission too.
Yes, thank you. So Lisa too actually has autoimmune compromises to her autoimmune system. What happens is, in that gap that we were talking about earlier, is that space gets filled or contaminated when there's a lack of empathy, when there's a lack of connection between the inner being and the person, the personality. And a lot of times, Lisa, someone like yourself who is a healer, the energy is channeled through you, but then you're not replenishing. And so what happens is, in that gap, again, the word empathy keeps coming through really strong. There's a deflection. Well, I'm going to speak directly to you. There's a deflection, Lisa, in the where you put your empathy. You put your empathy on everybody else, but you deprive yourself of the experience of empathy. And so you're a fine teacher of helping other people experience their empathy, but there's a part of you that feels like you need to sacrifice yourself in order to do the work that you do. And it's a poor story that many spiritual teachers and healers have, that if I sacrifice something, then I'm worthy of this work. And the healing needs to come. Your experience of sacrifice comes from childhood. And so what happens is, there's no experience of time. Time is a habitual mind linear habit that we've made up to compartmentalize things. But what you do without realizing it is that you draw that deprivation, that need to be a sacrificial human for humanity, into the present moment. So you have empathy for everybody else, but you leave yourself out. And you've been doing that your whole life. And in doing so, you've created a space for your body the body will scream at you when you're not listening to its wisdom, when you're not participating with it, when you have resistance and you're pushing upstream against it. And so when you're a teacher and you're teaching empathy, for instance, connection to the past. Now think about this, you're past life regression therapist. And so you're bringing people into the story of their past and trying to bring them present with it. There's a part of you that's leaving you behind there. And it doesn't belong where you are now. So the healing energy, that well light energy, is not penetrating through this part of you that holds on to needing to sacrifice. And so there's an exercise that I've been teaching for over 30 years, in teaching people to raise their child, their inner being child. And it's interesting because Lisa, in all her teachings and all her trainings and retreats, taught that to people and thought she herself was doing it very well. But the feeling of shame that she carried was so undetected, because we're so clever in our minds. Lisa's so clever in her mind. So it's very easy to trick oneself into believing that one is having empathy, and like I said earlier, very easy to save face without even realizing it. And just your willingness to ask that question, not as the spiritual leader that you are and the teacher that you are, but as a human being asking, that question was cultivated from the moment of trust that you had with yourself in the rampage meditation that we just did. And it's in that same space where you'll find the empathy and the healing, the tool, that there's many tools out there, as you know, but being able to be that vulnerable takes courage and strength. And then to come into that space now with love for yourself in that light and that vulnerability, that's where the magic starts to happen. And so I suspect that there was a break somewhere in your childhood that caused you to step away from this inner being space and go into survival mode. And in doing so, you've created much of your work, even though it's brilliant, from deprivation. But it's taken a toll on you. It's taken a toll on you and your body. And for Lisa may or may not ever have the opportunity for full emergence out of her autoimmune issues. But in this space of connection with Mama, Lisa's able to be inspired to beautiful healing, great teachers, medicines and opportunities that she wouldn't have if she was coming from deprivation.
It was almost confusing there because it was Lisa and then Lisa, and I wasn't sure if you were referring to your Lisa in third person or Lisa Machenberg there.
I got that.
I was able to track that when you were talking to me and you were talking to Lisa, who is the channel. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart because that resonated in so many ways. And thank you so much. And I'd love to hear you work with the others too. But I promise it resonated, and I promise that I'm going to meditate and give that empathy to myself because I know I'm worthy. And you reminded me of that.
Yes. Thank you. If we don't master loving ourselves, people are worried about how they're going to get money, sustenance, go back to what they perceive to be normal. And as I said in the last session, normal does not work the way we've experienced it. Therefore, we have to emerge from a different space, a different way of thinking and being. And if we do not allow for this connection, there will be dis-ease on so many levels for many people. But to be in abundance with health, with healing, with a financial abundance, one has to be connected to all pervasive energy, to that power, to the wealth that is who we are. And if we're not connected to that, then again, we're in scarcity, we're in deprivation, and even health then becomes very hit or miss.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Beautiful. And thank you, Lisa, because someone like yourself, I wouldn't have expected you to open and say, and just put yourself out there. So I'm so grateful that you did that. Next we have, yes, Lisa.
You just created a beautiful, safe space. And I feel the love and connection in this community. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, that certainly was the intention here. Now, is it Bishop Stacy or Stacy Bishop that we have?
Stacy Bishop. Sorry, it's backwards.
It's a really cool name. Either way, if you were going to be a VO, I would say go with Bishop Stacy because it'll set you apart for sure. Anyway, welcome to our space. I have not met you before, but I welcome you and feel free to share with Mama.
Thank you so much. So Mama P and I go back over a decade, and I live in Michigan, so I'm stuck here in the WB. You all got out of Dodge here and are in California, but I'm blooming where I'm planted. And I did a life and teacher training over a decade ago, and my life was a mess. I became a single mom. I had just briefly, I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I got more than I bargained for going for a training with Lisa. I hadn't met her before because she had already moved. And your gifts, Lisa, I'm just so grateful to know you, and our paths are reconnecting and reuniting, and you speak my language. And these exercises that she put us through were just phenomenal. And one thing that just stands out to me from that time, my mother's mentally ill. She has borderline personality disorder. And I was paired with a woman who was a mirror of my mother, what a mother should be. And I realized what I didn't have in one. So, I mean, the profound gifts. And I appreciated your meditation so much, because here I am. I went to teacher training and I didn't want to become a teacher. And as Mama P said, she's very blunt and to the point, and she kicked my behind with honest, raw truth. And I became a teacher, and I teach meditation and I teach yoga and all of these things. So what I want to ask for you is you definitely changed and shifted the trajectory of my teaching. And I know I'm a teacher through and through, and I have a lot to share and offer, but like my channel, I know I have a lot to share. So if you have any wisdom, we haven't connected in real life version in a while, any wisdom on how my voice should be channeled, because like you, I am kind of raw, and I don't have a problem sharing once I've gotten to the other side of things. So we
try to complicate things, Stacy. We try to complicate things with our head because of insecurities and fear of how we'll be perceived. And so that question that you're asking comes from your fear of the unknown, the fear of what your power could be, because you're not allowing yourself, just like Lisa Machenberg, not allowing yourself to connect in that space where you're powerful. So your ask and your concern of how it should be channeled, and you're not opening up, you're not allowing yourself to be a portal for the authenticity. As my father always says to me, I think he's on here somewhere, is keep it simple. Keep it simple. And the simplicity is a straight shot to the truth. And even if it comes out clumsy for a while, you'll find your way through it. See, when Lisa dove off the podium of her life, it was just a clumsy fall for a very long time. And no one can give you your voice, but your connection to your inner being, sacred space, is your authentic voice. Stop trying to sugarcoat it. Stop trying to make it look like something it's not. Stop trying to sell yourself to the world. And then slowly what will happen is, from that power, your desire to want to help people will lead you in the direction you need to go. It'll take you to the abundance, because there won't be resistance there. It'll come naturally. And then of course you have a good product. I don't know if you people know that Stacy is a organic raw food cook, and she has all these wonderful talents, but those things will emerge. And when we're connected in that inner being space, we are led and inspired to the next step. And from that, just that little tiny shift in the vibration and the energy that we did in that exercise is enough to invite in. Because if you understand universal law, everything is like unto itself. Everything is an exact mirror for whatever we're putting out. But if we're putting out from desire, and that desire is coming from deprivation, which it is for most people because we're not even aware of it, then again, we're asking from depletion, and what we'll get back is not so much of what we want, a little bit maybe here and there. Some people are more bullheaded and strong, so they can grind. There's those people who swim upstream and they get these awards for these things, and they put their names on benches and need to be acknowledged for all these things. And look at how hard I ran today, and look at how much I did, and oh, I just will sacrifice, and rather than just letting it emerge, letting the connection emerge and see how it percolates. See, we're told how it's supposed to look. We're told how we're supposed to look as women, as men in the world, how we're supposed to respond politically, emotionally, religiously. If you dive into that space, Stacy, and you sit there in the discomfort of the unknown. See, when people begin to meditate, often there's discomfort. It's not what we're used to feeling. Even though there's an ease and an abyss, there's also discomfort. That's why people jump out of their meditation so quickly. And so, but if you allow yourself to sit there, no matter what comes up, and learn to be the observer, learn to start to observe, and then bring in elements of empathy, of kindness, of love. Wow, what will your path look like from that space? Stop telling the story of your mother. Stop telling the story of what you don't have. What's the story look like of what you do want to have, and start to experience what that feels like. See, we took ourselves, I don't know what space everybody's in, but I've been told by most people that in this experience that we're going through in life right now, that we're all feeling some resistance, some fear, some worry, some concerns. Some of us at times are feeling great elation and relief, but in general, there's a sense of concern. And we just shifted that in the meditation. If you shifted, if you didn't shift, that's totally okay. You know, sometimes it's like a muscle, it needs to be practiced. But if you shifted, you could see that even in that shift, the wellness of abundance that you might have been feeling, and the trust in that. So isn't that the channel?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stacy Bishop.
Namaste.
Oh, namaste to you too. So thank you. He's moved around on the board here, Robbie and his iPhone. Where's Robbie? He was here a moment ago. Did we lose Robbie?
No,
or-
I'm here. I'm
There
here.
you are. You're back. Hi, Robbie. I
Hi.
have not met you before, so welcome.
Hi.
Thank you. Mama's here for you.
You know, I can say on this whole Zoom call that I've known Lisa the longest, for sure. I think 1982, 83. I had just gone through trauma of losing my father quickly, wasn't expected, and I met Lisa. And I've actually met Mama, but I thought that was when Lisa was hungry. That's what I thought Mama was. You know, I met her because she's always been very straightforward, no black and white, right down the middle. And what I want to talk about, and even when I met you, Lisa, the trauma of childhood, which I think gets imprinted from now all of that I've gone through, probably by the age of 4. You know, I get imprinted with stuff. I mean, being a brand new baby is great because we have none of that. We're clean and get a clean start. And then, you know, how we're brought up, or how I was brought up, sticks on me. And, you know, and what I'm understanding is we have to let that go. And I have a very difficult time of letting go of anything. Like, I'll let go, but it has claw marks on it. So what I'm trying to do is, my motto now, having talked to Lisa many times, is the rear view mirror is smaller than the front view windshield. And because I believe I've repeated many of my childhood traumas over and over and over and over, and it gets tiring. And it's hard to create new experiences when I'm living in the past. I can only refer to me. So that's what I deal with.
So Robbie, I'm so glad you're here. The analogy of the rear view window is smaller than the window ahead of me. It sounds like a lovely saying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's actually a disclaimer and an excuse to not be in the now. And it's, again, looking ahead rather than sitting with what is right now. And right now you're in the driver's seat. If you do not turn on your automobile, your car will not drive. And if you do not connect to your inner being, you will not drive. You will be in the results of the future, which is no different than being dragging the dead past to the present moment. So that's a beautiful saying that you just said. And most people might go, oh, that's so great. Well, that sounds so cool. Yeah, the window looks so great. But it's actually a disclaimer to not be connected. And it's a pretty analogy, of course, but it's not where the freedom is. It's not where the freedom is. So we can identify something we might want or look forward to, creating hope, creating vision boards, ideals of what we want for ourselves, but then let it go. Because the only way to get to any of that stuff is to be here right now. Here right now, not the past. You definitely talked about how you claw it. In the mind, the ego is our story, as I call it. It's very powerful. And we don't want to let go of that story, because to let go of the story of the past or the results of the future leads us to this moment to have to feel what we're feeling. But the good news about that is our feelings are indicators as to whether we're connected or not. If you're feeling like crap and you're feeling anxious and angry, despair, fear, worry, there's a disconnect. I know that disconnect comes from that deprivation space. When Lisa has anxiety, it's a flag that goes off and says, you're not connected right now. And I can tell you, when she's in that space, she's wanting to look forward to say, I want to be over here. I want to be over here. I can see over there looks better. But there's no way to get over there until she deals with what's here right now. And it's usually a gap of some form of deprivation that's causing that disconnect. So it is nice to have a view looking out and looking forward. But if we can shift our attention to that inner being space, that's where everything that we see outside of ourselves is the seedling of creation anyway. So what we end up seeing is simply what we've created. So you don't need that window right now. The window to the soul is far more valuable.
Mm.
Thank you.
Beautiful and powerful. All right, we have next up, I believe it is Stacy Parker. Hi, Stacy Parker, unmute. Welcome.
Hi. Lisa, I don't think I've met you, but I know you through Jacqueline. I think we've, through Love Fabu, you were helping us, and I've just heard amazing, amazing stories about you. So yeah, I just wanted to ask a quick question. I've been furloughed for 90 days, so I've got nothing to do, and I can start a life coaching business now, which I've done. And I just wanted to see if you can see anything in that, if that looks good or not.
Well, it's not Mama that you need to ask that to. So when we have to ask other people to validate us, again, it's coming from the fear of the unknown. And so if you get quiet with yourself and put yourself into a state of connection to your sacred inner being space, then you will have the ability to create and answer that for yourself. If you are asking Mama to psychically tell you if you should become a life coach, that would be silly. Because at any given moment, depending on where your energy, this is why Lisa doesn't practice her psychic skills for money and only allows for them to be there when they happen naturally. Because when somebody is coming to see a psychic, for instance, they're coming from a certain energy in that moment. And that's where the reader, the psychic reader, is reading the person from that energy. And we have the ability, as you see and experience in this platform when we meditated, to shift energy. So you could ask me that question as you just did, from you not knowing. How do you expect someone else to know for you?
Right.
And so and you could come at a different energy when you're all connected and knowing, and then a psychic could tell you, yes, go for it.
Yeah.
But, those are slaves to, we become slaves to our minds and the fluctuation of our preferences in the moment. So it's not until you step away from that, Stacy, and you start to move into the core of your inner being space that you'll truly know the answer to that. Now, there's plenty of life coaches out there that operate not from that space and do very well, because they're able to articulate and regurgitate information and knowledge and share tools with people. But that's a lot different. That's a lot different than knowing where you're coming from and what you're helping people move within themselves. So when you know what that is for you and you're connected to that, your coaching will open up genuinely, and you'll make the connections with the people you need to make them with from that space. But if you force it, So I know I did meet you once. Lisa met you once with Jacqueline outside of a place called Lemonade.
That's it.
right.
Yes, I
Yes.
knew I had met you. Yes, because I mean, we had met.
You had a very intense energy, and you still do, and but that will serve you because you're smart with business. But don't mistake being smart with business for authenticity in what you do. And that authenticity, again, everything circles back to holding space and learning to grow our emotional vibration so that what we're emitting is coming from authenticity, and then we're creating from a place of abundance, not just for ourselves, but for the people that we're connecting with, for community, for world, etc. If you are asking Lisa her opinion, it's very different than where I'm at now in connection with Mama. Mama could never tell you to be a coach or not be a coach. Mama can only say to you, when you connect to yourself, you're no. Lisa could tell you to go be a smart businesswoman and do whatever you want, but it's not going to fulfill your purpose. It's not going to fulfill anything for you until it comes from your own connection.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Totally. Thank you.
Thank you for.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as Lisa, because Lisa's out of the building but still here too, I've never had to talk about Mama like myself in third person. So this is new for me to articulate this way. And it does make sense for me as well. And I do feel the difference when it's Lisa wanting to answer and when it's the collective consciousness, that the spirit that's been coming to me from when I was a little girl. And I want you to know sincerely, I will tell you if I'm coming from Lisa or if it's not Mama, I'll say, shit, Lisa just slipped in here, you know, because this is new for me also to articulate this way, because I never had to separate it so people would understand what's happening.
The third person part, I'm sure, gets confusing, but this is our maiden voyage here today. So we had the perfect people in the Zoom, and someone that I'm going to bring in to speak to Mama next is the incredible Minda Burr. I have known her for many years. She is a bestie of Catherine Curry Williams. Some of the other women that are in that group are in this space, like Sandy and Rami. They are light workers and powerful women. Minda is a brilliant writer and writing coach, and I love you, Minda.
Is this on a audio? Because
no, she's down here with the blonde hair and glasses. Minda, let me unmute
okay,
you.
there you are.
Let me unmute you so you can, wait. There you go. I think you should, shoot. Can you speak?
Hear me?
Oh, there you are. Now I see you.
Great.
Hi, I'm so happy to be on the
touch
call.
you like this, Minda. You put your hand up, and I want to just connect to you so much. I felt that when you just put your hand up like that.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. You just teared me up. Yes, I don't want to ask a question about myself, because the biggest question I have right now is what the collective consciousness thinks about the way the world is dealing with this virus. You might have talked about it last week, I don't know, but there are some health workers out there that feel like we should have absolutely sequestered and quarantined the people that were in jeopardy, the elderly and people with compromised immune systems, and that other people should still have been out there in the world, that percentage of people that would have actually gotten sick would have been small, and herd immunity would have been established.
Minda,
and people, yes,
you're speaking from pain, and the pain is real for many of us, and this experience of being in and observing and experiencing suffering. Collective consciousness holds space and light in our ability to shift our attention to a higher energy space. And in doing so, we become more powerful. So we can look at from our personalities, And just from sheer logic, one could look at this experience and see all the mistakes made.
Okay, I want you to know something. I've been perfectly fine being quarantined. It's been an amazing experience. It really has.
Yes.
I'm being sent all this information from some very conscious people, and I don't want to name anybody right now, but it's like, what the heck? Is there any validity in this? Are we quarantined just out of fear, or are we quarantined out of love? I've been doing okay with it. You know,
the quarantine isn't defined as fear or love. There's politics involved, and whenever there's politics involved and business involved, we're looking at human ignorance, the development of life from that deprivation space. So the most important thing that we need to draw our focus on as individuals is, well, how am I going to be responsible? How am I going to hold space? Because when a person is in alignment with their inner being energy, they are very powerful. And that power is a radio signal, essentially an electrical current that omits clarity and truth. And when more of us hold space in that energy, we will see a shift. We will see a shift. This pandemic is a louder version of the daily pandemics that many humans live with on this earth in many different cultures. And we are experiencing this here in Western culture in a way that we haven't since, the early 1900s, since the major pandemic that happened then. But there's always, where there's scarcity and deprivation, there will always be poor decisions, pandemics. Now, what we can do for people out there physically trying to work to help cure this particular virus, what we can do as human beings to help support those who are working, doctors, nurses, civilians, to help them and support them is to hold space. And as I told Tina last week, who had a great empathy for people who are hurting and hungry, when we hold space in ourselves, we know we are inspired towards right action. So the focus isn't on continuing to talk about the pandemic from a perspective of decisions that have been made. The most important thing that we can do is find that clarity within ourselves. And again, the misguided piece that we all as human beings have is a misguided pull away from our center into circumstantial living, and then making decisions and thinking from circumstance and experience and preference rather than inner connection. So there is a reason to be concerned. And in that concern, there's power. And the power is in what you're willing to do to hold ground with yourself and not get caught up in the story of the pandemic. It's difficult to do that because we are very habitually addicted to wanting to be involved in, with no disrespect to drama. And this situation is incredibly dramatic. And it's more comfortable to operate sometimes in what feels familiar than to make the shift into what is that pervasive unknown energy that many people have not tapped into. Am I answering, Minda, your question?
Well, I understand what you're saying. I do. I guess part of my question is the fact that we're going to be waiting for a cure-all vaccine, which some people, some health workers think is going to be very detrimental in the long run. And so that's been part of my confusion. I wondered if you had is that the answer? Because that's what they're making it sound like. So people are bucking the circumstantial thing. You know, It's like everyone wants to have higher vibration. I certainly do. I want to stay in that higher vibration all the time and focus on the love and focus on community and focus on generosity and focus on and being on my own inner journey with all this as well, going deep with my own spiritual practices and what have you. But I do feel great compassion from the people that have no idea how they're going to feed their children. You know,
just
I have
like
great compassion.
Lisa Machenberg was talking about her autoimmune deficiency. There will be a vaccine that's necessary for us to get back on our feet as human beings interacting again. It'll be 100% necessary, but it's not, the vaccine is a Band-Aid. The vaccine is a Band-Aid. The ideal shift is what you were just starting to allude to, the community, the sharing, the grace, the generosity. And that is the ultimate healing that needs to happen. The vaccine is temporary. It's temporary to hold ground until another pandemic, till more floods, more fires, more this, more that. So again, it's very important that we have this vaccine, because just like somebody who has a gap in their immune system, they might not fully be able to close that gap. Ideally, we all can do that. The ideal is, yes, we can create our own wellness. Yes, we can stay in that validated inner being space. It's very powerful. But our human habit, our human deficiency, our ignorance will for most people, as Randy alluded to last week, this gaslighting experience will leave a big gap. And because of those gaps in the whole of humanity, we will need vaccines. We will need these Band-Aids, but it is not the answer. Right. It is 100%.
I totally feel aligned with that. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Minda. Listen, a vaccine is going to be a year or more away. So what do we do in between? I think the antibodies testing, and certainly testing to see who has COVID, so that we can know if where that curve is at. But antibodies seems like a logical thing, taking people's temperatures and getting an antibody test that could tell you right away. Either you've been exposed to it, but you didn't get it because you've got the antibodies. Like, if we all knew that, I think people could start moving around, and it's
Randy,
not going to end anytime soon. That's for sure.
And that also, and then the understanding of, there's this general wave of let's get back to normal, but a shift in understanding what normal is,
right,
is very important right now for the whole of humanity. And we Westerners seem to be more resistant to that than some other cultures. And again, I believe that the vaccines, the testing are going to help us get back functioning into a communal world together, into business, into society. But it is not the answer. And it's really important that we as individuals, us coming together collectively to collaborate with collective consciousness, come together and again, hold ground as firmly as we can with ourselves.
Thank you. The time has beyond flown by. So we're at 12 minutes, almost 12 minutes after the hour. This has been amazing, and I thank you all for coming into this space, and I want to do this again. I think this is going to be something we'd like to do on Monday, because this Safe Space Live is for us to, for all of us here. If we walk away from this Zoom with our vibration raised and lifted, then we're all going out and doing what we need to do to continue to, spread the love, spread empathy, spread compassion, and take it day by day.
Randy,
yes,
I just want to put out, because I'm getting a sense from somebody on the screen. Is there somebody that has a burning question that they feel they need to ask in this moment before we lead off, before
Anyone? Okay.
This out, woman.
Oh yeah, no, Jacqueline's mom had her hand up. Where's Jacqueline's mom?
Hi, I'm Muriel.
Hi, Muriel.
Hi. Hi, hi, Lisa. Okay, so my question, how do I get rid of a certain hate and anger at one person, a politician? I don't know if I say his name, I don't know. Well, all right, Trump. But it's like, it's actually all consuming for me. It's not, excuse me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. It's, it always was, but now it's like, you know, I'm on Facebook, you know, I'm sharing this, I'm doing this, I'm whatever, but it's a little bit taking a life of its own. Somebody said to me, because this I did in another thing I belong to, you have to pray for him. I said,
Okay, Muriel.
Go ahead.
So the face of our politics, the face of our country, of any politics, of any leadership is an absolute reflection of the collective human output. The energy that we've put out, this is an absolute reflection of the collective whole. And when the collective whole shifts a different energy, that will no longer be what represents our politics, the cover, so to speak, of anything. So we vary in degree, not kind. So when we experience hate, whether the justification is there or not, it comes from preference and fear. And so when somebody says to Lisa to pray for somebody that maybe she has resistance or resentment towards, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel right, because it's not coming from authenticity when there's such a momentum of discord there. So the first thing that needs to happen is to ease up on the discord. And the way we ease up on the discord is we have to understand that what we see manifested is a reflection of the deprivation in ourselves as human beings, individually and collectively. And there's no right or wrong, righteous or wrong. And as soon as we take the righteous judgment out of it, we start to cultivate empathy for what we're missing within ourselves. And when, again, like I said earlier, when that gap is closed without anger, fear, anxiety, without addiction, when it's coming from love and kindness, then the energy shifts, and we'll see a reflection, a manifestation of that in our society. Most important to understand is every human being, unless one has reached enlightenment, comes from an energy of an ask of not having. And so when we see something or someone we don't like that displeases us, it is an absolute mirror for the part of ourselves for which we feel ashamed, which we feel lacking. And what people want to do is point the finger and turn the energy to another person, a place, a thing. And again, like I said to Rob B. Spector earlier, it's a deflection to not be responsible right now in the now for yourself. So hatred is, it's a cause. It's something that, it's something that people get rooted to. It's a collective energy. It's a way to express ourselves. It's a way to validate right or wrong. And it's an absolute deflection from authenticity, which doesn't judge right or wrong, which doesn't validate from preference. So the idea would not be to put your values on searching for how to articulate this. If you want to see a shift in the in the face of the political climate. You have to first make it in yourself and become part of that powerful collective shift. And the more you tell the story of your hatred, the more you're going to manifest and cultivate that. And it's a very fine line because, you know, with anything, let me go back to an example that I think works for some people. When our politics changed, there was women who came together all over the world to march and to commune, and it was very beautiful. But not a lot shifted from that. There wasn't great change. While it was energetically really beautiful to experience these women and these cultures coming together, it didn't shift anything. Because when people are coming or asking from what they don't have, rather than from their power, they're creating more of what they don't have. And so when we want our politics to change because we're so angry at it, when we're so angry at the way things are manifested, and we're pointing a finger, there's no power in that for you to shift anything. You know, even the vote doesn't necessarily shift it, because the power is in an organic shift with yourself. And then you don't see the face of politics as being your enemy. You see it as an opportunity for you to shift your energy, because the empathy is there, again, even for something that you experience as so ugly. You can ask, if you can continue, there's another piece to that.
Okay. So basically, let me see if I got this right. My anger is in some way a reflection of me?
Yes.
Okay. And if I didn't have that, if I was like, you know, all, you know, kumbaya type of thing, I would not be angry at this individual.
It's good to be angry. Angry is better than feeling helpless. Okay. But you have to, you can be angry from having empathy for the world. But, you know, who are we to judge anybody? Stay in your own lane.
Okay.
You know, don't allow your judgments to see. What happens is people want to leech onto causes. If I'm doing something, then, or if I have something that I can fight against or be on a cause with, then it must have purpose in my life. But what we aren't taught when we're young is to connect to the sacred space, and from that space, there's a divine understanding and empathy, even for something that we perceive, that we choose to call hate or perceive as something we dislike. See, we have to be very careful about our preferences because they lead us to righteousness. And who are we to judge anybody when we haven't even necessarily stopped judging ourselves? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Now it does. Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Lisa.
A powerful one for you, Muriel, but for all of us, really. You asked the question for many of us in the forum tonight. Mama, I have one more question. Adam would like to get in here. I know that Stacy Bishop also wanted to say something, but let's go to Adam. He hasn't spoken yet. Hi.
Where's Adam?
Here.
In the bottom. Hi, Adam.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Very good.
That's wonderful. I'm having well, as probably most of us are, you know, a big disconnect with families and things like this during this time. But even prior to you know, the being quarantined and people staying at home, I had a strained relationship with my twin daughters, and you know, lots of different attempts to try and to rekindle that relationship and have a closer interaction and more interaction with them, but it wasn't working. You know, I tried different approaches, and I thought that maybe during this time too, you know, maybe to try it might focus for them to see that family and things, you know, separation might bring us a little bit closer, but I'm finding that that's not working either, and that's building, you know, even more so this disconnect and anxiety and things within myself. And I don't know how to maybe approach it to try and I don't know if it's sending energy or changing myself or focus and things that might bring them back or what, because again, there's no conversation, it's like you're trying to play this mind game to figure out.
So I can understand and empathize with the pain and the anxiety that must be causing for you. And I'm saying it specifically that way, causing for you, because you're operating from the cause, the reaction from the cause. You're operating from the emotion that you're experiencing from the experience. And so when you're in that space, you can't shift. You might be asking for this relationship with your daughters, but you're asking from anxiousness, fear, not having. So how can you, there are tools that will help you to connect to the little boy space within you. Mm-hmm. Some people call it inner child work, okay. but it's very, very helpful to be able to visit that space within yourself and offer yourself love, empathy, forgiveness, first within yourself. And there are many tools within my book and many great teachers and writers out there who offer tools to help one. We could even do a session to take people back into that space and find connection there. It's very powerful. Mm-hmm. But until you can bring yourself back to your own sacred space, the energy right now that's going out from you is coming from fear and anxiety, which would push anybody away that you want. Mm-hmm. And that's very painful to realize, because then one has to sit with the discomfort of what that is. Mm-hmm. But if you allow yourself to sit with the discomfort and you don't react to it, which is very tricky because the mind, of course, wants to react. And how can you not when something feels so bad? Mm-hmm. And to use the mind more appropriately to connect to this space like we did in the meditation earlier. And then from that space, where did you go? Mm-hmm. From that space, start to experience the desire from your own wholeness. Mm-hmm. See, we want to get things because we don't have them, but that's, again, a gaping hole. If you want to get something, you have to first experience. It sounds funny. You have to experience having it before you have it. So what would it feel like, Adam, to have your daughters in communication with you, in contact with you, in love with you, in wanting with you? And if you can start to rampage yourself into the feeling of what that feels like, mm-hmm. to experience that, again, the universal law is so powerful, it will bring it to you in one form or another. But the pushing against it because it's not there is creating more of it not there. Mm-hmm. It's very hard for our minds to settle into that because it's scary, especially when our attachments are of the higher nature to children, for instance. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to separate from that. You know, Lisa has resistance with one of her daughters more than the other. And it's a struggle for her sometimes to let go and allow for it, let go and allow for. And especially, again, when the desire is a big one that we feel very attached to. So the invitation for you is to step away from how you're asking for it right now, from the panic, from the anxiety. And there's things that you can do. Again, there's tools to temper and calm down the anxiety. But if you can understand what Mama is saying to you right now, is that you're stepping away and your connection to the experience of what that feels like to have it without having to see it physically, without having to touch it physically right now. Mm-hmm. And you can let yourself bask in moments of enjoying that without it needing to be tangible. Mm-hmm. It will draw to you automatically. It will draw to you in one form or another. The clarity will be there. The inspiration on what to say and how to act will be there. It was like Stacy who was asking earlier, you know, should I be a coach? When we're coming from that wholeness in ourselves, the ask doesn't need to be there. It's met by the universe. There's not a limit to what's possible energetically, vibrationally in the universe. It's completely abundant. You know, we're in a pandemic, we're in a virus, but the universe is in rejuvenation right now. If you can experience and feel your rejuvenation, your power, your wholeness, again, just for clarity, and the ask then comes from the enjoyment of wanting to connect from that beauty and the grace and the magnificence in yourself. You will draw near what you are ultimately asking for.
Adam, I would love to see what happens this week, and maybe you'll come back and share that with us next week. Lisa, our Zoom is going to time out, and this call will end so abruptly in a moment. I just want to thank everyone for holding space for us and putting this on your clock and being here with us today. And I want to thank Mama and Lisa for an incredible experience, and I look forward to doing this with you guys as long as you want to do this.
Randy, Thomas, you are amazing. Trey, Thomas Murphy, and Jacqueline Cravette for your help. Honestly, what a beautiful platform. Thank you, all of you. Namaste.
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 Thank you.